Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. The first live show of the new year for Star Wars Newsnet. It's time. We're in 2024. And I don't know about you guys. I'm a goal person. I'm always like I know a lot of people, I feel like resolutions and goals in the year are like getting less popular nowadays. I feel like because everyone's just like, to hell
They're
with
very
them.
short-lived, yeah.
I'm like always like super into that. Like I always have been. Like I'm always really regimented that way. So I'm kind of into it. So I was like, why not come up with some Star Wars resolutions for this year? I got 3 things today, guys. 3 things that I think will give us plenty to talk about, plenty to be upset about, plenty to be optimistic and hopeful about. But just like any great resolution, something we can be hopeful, optimistic for at the beginning. And ultimately, come March, get upset when we realize that none of this is actually going to come to fruition. But Happy New Year, Brian and Jay. It's good to see you both. You made it out on the other side of 2023. Looks like we're doing okay. Best time of the week. Star Wars News at Live Time. Brian, in a word, encapsulate, what you hope your 2024 experience to be. Just in a word.
Calm. a little more relaxed than 2023 was. I'm ready for it's all been static for me for the last year with starting a new job and everything, right. And then it's time for everything to just calm down. Like we need to take 5 or 10% off over there. Like we've been up here, we need to take it down here and just glide through 2024, hopefully uneventfully.
Yes. What's up, Andrew? Good to have you here. Jay, in a word. 2024. What are we hoping for?
Productivity. I am currently at that age where I'm like, man, I gotta get going. I'm still young. I'm still vibrant. Still got a lot of energy in me. Not an old man like Brian yet.
Whoa!
Hey.
The first pipe bomb of 2024 dropped by Jay.
No, we're good. Brian, you're good. You're good.
He came out swinging. So I thought this would be fun to start off today. Have you guys ever? I don't know if you can see, but someone gifted me this, and it's like a little mini book of all of Ralph McQuarrie's concept art from the original trilogy. And it's just like a mini book with just all the different concept art pieces. And I was like, he just said like Merry Christmas, and then so I've been like scrolling through this, and something that I had never seen before was the original concept art when Luke was being brought before Vader. I need to look into the backstory, but like in the concept art, it's Vader and Luke, and they're like underneath in some sort of volcano with lava like everywhere, and the Emperor sitting on the throne. And I was like, in my mind, obviously I don't know the backstory of this, but I'm wondering, is that like Mustafar before Mustafar was actually a thing, and then they said we're going to do something different, but we're going to come back to this. Do either of you know like anything about that, like concept art history?
No, but it sounds awesome.
No, yeah,
I'll have to find it later and show you. But like there was I was just looking through this, and I was like, there's some like really cool like concept art designs in here that I'm like, I've never seen some of these before, and I feel like I've seen quite a few of them.
I think the whole concept of the lava kind of thing has been there from the get-go. I mean, even when I was a kid, like in the mid-90s, you remember the Scholastic Book Fair? Do they still do that?
Oh yeah, every year.
Okay,
yeah, every year.
So when I was like a kid, like I don't even think you guys were born yet. Thanks, Jay. Now it's stuck in my head.
I love you, man. I love you.
But I had this book, and it was basically Star Wars: A New Hope, and it was like a big picture book, right? Big paperback, real thin, but big. And one of the stories in there, one of the little excerpts it was talking about was Darth Vader. And even back before the special editions even ever came out, I mean, this was like 95, 96, something like that. I was talking about how Obi-Wan battled his apprentice on the edge of an erupting volcano. And his apprentice fell in and stuff. So like it's been part of it from like the get-go. Really cool. And I thought that
you guys could see, but like that's like
it looks very snowish.
Oh, I've seen that. No, I've seen that before.
Yeah, I was like, whoa.
Brian was born in 2005. Oh, you were born in 2005. Gotcha. You guys all suck. All you
So,
young whippersnappers.
so
Back in my day.
2024, I have 3 resolutions. We're gonna start with one. I want you guys to tell me: is this one? How can Star Wars like make this happen? Like, what are the keys to actually making this come true? And 2, will they actually follow through with this resolution? So this first one is, of course, like all great things Star Wars, baked in controversy. So this has been a roller coaster ride ever since 2019, and that is this year. Star Wars Lucasfilm is actually going to begin production of a feature film. It's actually going to happen. They're slated for 2026, May 2026, to have a feature film. If they're going to meet the May 2026 deadline, then by the end of this year, you have to think that they will have their stories finalized, casting done, and begin production for that, because it's going to take usually about a year and a half to really get that stuff going. So they have to start that like this year, like that process. So resolution 1, and obviously from Rogue Squadron to David the D&D from Game of Thrones, like to Taika Waititi's film that is still in the works, to Kevin Feige's film that never happened. This has been a problem. This has been a common theme of creative differences. But I'm telling you right now, the resolution is that this year, Lucasfilm begins production on a feature film. Brian,
Oh God!
how can we make sure that this happens?
Oh man.
the depressing sigh before talking about feature film productions.
No,
we're not off to a good start.
There's a lot to unpack with this movie right now. Like, there's so much going on in the news right now that has just been blowing up my Facebook feed all day about the director making some comments and stuff. And I know we don't want to get political on here. I know we don't. And I don't think it's a political thing, but people are taking it as politically, and people are arguing about it. People are already butthurt over a movie that doesn't even exist yet. Like, everybody's already arguing about this movie, and it's, gained enough traction that some pretty, big names in coverage are covering the fact that this is already very controversial, some of the stuff that's been said. So I don't know if, I want to see the movie go into production. I really do. You guys know I'm not looking forward to this movie, but it's a Star Wars movie, so obviously I want to see it go into production.
And
I don't know. I feel like this one's gonna. I don't know if any of them are gonna get put on the back burner. It's gonna be this one.
Really? See, I feel the exact opposite, because I think they put Daisy on stage.
Mm-hmm.
She's doing interviews with Variety. Kathleen was there on stage.
You might be right.
This one feels like it's locked in. And I think the controversy that's surrounding it is just people trying to get upset over nothing. Like, she, I think, said something that she was probably told to say in some regards by publicists. And also it's like one quote taken from a long list. And I'm like, she's like, it's about time. A woman, like, sure, like, we haven't had a female direct a Star Wars movie. That would be it'd be awesome, because in a lot of ways, a lot of women are the backbone of the franchise. So, anyway, but yeah, there's a lot of things that have to.
There's a lot around that
go
movie.
in first. I think, for starters, is probably figuring out the story. But Jay, how are we gonna make sure that this production begins this year? What is Lucasfilm? What do we got to do to make sure we don't break our resolution this year?
If production is to get started on this new Rey movie, I'm gonna guess it has to be like sometime around the end of the year. Like, I don't think it's gonna be happening anytime soon. It's my guess. If we hear anything about it, it might be like in October, November, around that time. Because I think from now till then, a lot of it is gonna be getting the script down, like you guys said, like getting the story down, getting the actual writing done, getting a lot of that like pre-production visuals, like a lot of the concept art, the casting. Casting is a big one. Yeah, I mean, like I'll like, we don't even have like a full cast list yet. That's usually like the first big thing that we always hear about. when it comes to like big Star Wars projects is the cast. And so, we still don't even have that down yet. We know Daisy Ridley is there.
Mhm.
We've heard some stuff from Adam Driver saying like he is done with the series, so I'm not too, never say never. He could possibly come back, but he seemed pretty adamant about
Mhm.
it. I think Miguel said in our Discord chat, like he probably, or I don't know if it was Miguel or someone, we were discussing it amongst ourselves where Adam Driver, he doesn't really need it. He doesn't really need Star Wars at this point in time. He's having a great career without Star Wars at this point, and Star Wars doesn't really need him at this point, I think. And
Yeah, I would
so
say. So to further that point, I don't know if you saw like the one, what was the site, it was like on the Wrap that said that the Mandalorian was the most streamed, it topped the list of the most watched streaming originals in 2023. So like Star Wars is doing well, even if that's not 100% accurate. It shows Star Wars is killing it in the TV space. And then another ranking I saw was, it said that like Star Wars was, it said right here, by fandom, despite not releasing a theatrical film since 2019, Star Wars has been named the top film franchise of 2023 by fandom. Star Wars was ranked as the #1 toy brand in the US this year. Like Star Wars is doing pretty good. And a lot of people think that Star Wars isn't doing so great. So I think Jay's on the money there saying, Adam Driver doesn't need Star Wars. He's doing awesome. And it doesn't need Adam Driver right now. So Jay said production begins end of the year, and I would agree that I would hope that by October, November, we're starting to hear like some serious juice getting ramped up for this movie, so that way into the new year it gets cracking. Before we go into our second one, do either of you have any thoughts on the first one still, like how we're gonna do that? Oh, sorry, will the resolution take place? Will this one come true by December 31st of this year? We will be able to sit back and say that production has taken place in a new Star Wars film. And it doesn't have to be like this intense stuff. It can simply be they have taken the first photographs for like the movie. The first shot has at least been captured in someone's like brain somewhere.
Yeah.
What are we thinking?
It'll happen this year.
Yes.
It almost has to, because if it's making May 2026, I mean, you have to put film to screen. You have to do it this year. It has to be.
And we don't know, that date could get pushed back with the strikes and everything. Like it could be 2027 possibly when we see that. Well, they have 2 films slated for 26. So one, like this one could be the one that's slated for December, and then the 26th one in May gets bumped to 27 May. Because we still don't know which one would come first. Like the Rey movie, the Mandoverse movie, like what is it? So Jay, will this happen? Will we be able to sit back here and look back at our New Year's resolutions and say, you know what, we're 1 for 1?
I think it will. Like you guys said, I think with a 2026 release date, it almost has to. To say like, okay, whether I want it to happen, well, here's the thing, and
Jay doesn't want this to happen.
No, I want it.
Remember, this is the guy last week that said he wanted to kill Qui-Gon. So
that's true.
Why are you surprised?
Yeah. I'm walking on thin ice already. But no, I do want it to happen. But I think that like what I was thinking was, at the start of this year, I really hope like Star Wars movie news, or just like, like the announcements and just like the reveals, I just hope they cool it a bit for this year.
What do you mean by cool it? Like new announcements, or because I think that if we get news on the stuff that they've already talked about, like more news on the Rey movie, more news on the Mandoverse movie, to me that's good. That's good. Like I want to have news about those movies, because it shows me that Lucasfilm actually has their like craft together.
Right. But it is a good sign. But I think that like, I think a lot of people are, I like myself and a lot of people I think might be just inclined to be like, you know what, I think we're good. I think we can hold off on, a bit more, like hold off on some of those news. We don't need to see like, obviously we're far away from trailer. We're far away from like even just maybe even a casting. But I think that I would like to see like a bigger emphasis, just more or like more focus on what's coming out this year and on the TV shows that
Mhm.
are being released now. I think
But in
that
terms of cool it, what news have we gotten?
like we haven't gotten a whole lot, but I think that like just thinking about like what we've discussed even the past few weeks. I think you said, Brian, that they announced a lot of these movies way too early.
Yeah, yeah,
And
I think they did.
Like these
yeah,
big 3
I'm
I
with
think a
you.
movies they're
full
talking about
year too
now?
early. A full
Like,
year too
these
early.
3 movies they announced as
Yes.
Celebration, or
Yes.
Yeah,
you think they
yeah.
announced it
I
too
think they
early?
announced it
A
too soon.
full
I agree with
year.
it.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
should have waited a full year to say anything. Yeah,
Really?
I think so. Yeah, I think
For all
coming up
3?
this April is when they should have actually. Yeah, all three of them.
But
Yes.
they don't
Yeah.
have a celebration plan for this April.
But you don't need a celebration to
But
announce.
that's how they wanna do their
Well, I
big
get that,
reveals
but
for the movies.
I mean, I don't. I think it was way too early. I think yeah, I think they really did put it out way too early.
Oh, man, I really couldn't disagree more because
Don't,
it
get
was
me
4
wrong.
years.
Don't get
Yeah.
me wrong. I'm glad they put it out. Like, I'm glad that I
Right.
know there's 3 Star Wars movies coming. As a fan, I'm like,
Mhm.
yes, like, but as somebody who like, I already know about all 3 of the movies that are coming out now. And
Mhm.
it's, we're talking about movies that aren't going to be coming out for another 5 years,
Right.
I mean, and so I think they should have, and I don't, you know what? I'd go as far as to say not even announce all 3 of them.
That's fair.
Maybe 2 of them, maybe at least one of them,
You
definitely,
could
but
probably hold off on
maybe
the Dawn
2
of
of
the
them.
Jedi one,
Yes.
maybe if you're
Yes.
holding off on one. I
Yeah.
think they wanted to kind of do like this big panel of like, this is the
Mhm.
future, and here's your 3. And there's so many
Past,
shows
present,
that
future
you
movies,
don't have
yeah.
to really, yeah, like there's like, here's our 3 eras and
Yeah.
everything. I felt like it was perfect because like if we're following movie news, that it's going to be a slow process to get news for anything, but
Mhm.
having a knowledge of that movie coming and it's on the horizon, and like every little tidbit of information I get, I feel like if you do it at Celebration, you're immediately marketing each movie as an event. Like, we are
Mhm.
eventizing this because we're at this big event. We're showing you this movie. We're eventizing this, and it's gonna build into the hype versus like just them dropping a short video in April saying, "Hey, this is a movie we're starting production on," because at that point it's going to get picked up by Variety or one of
Mhm.
these other trades, and we're just going to have
Find out
some
that way.
that way. And then
I
that's been like all the other movies, and they always get canceled.
But I feel like they kinda shot themselves in the foot by putting out these 3 movies, 'cause whether you like what Disney's doing with Star Wars or not, there's a stigma around Disney right now not being able to get a Star Wars movie out the door. I mean, we haven't had one since 2019, and there's a stigma around that. And they announced all 3 of these movies before the strikes ever happened or anything like
Mhm.
that, and anything could happen within the next 5 years. We're gonna have another writer's strike, in a couple of years that is gonna push these back even further again. And it's like, why talk about movies that are, at the time, 6 years away, 7 years away, when we've got all this other stuff we could talk about now with Mando season 4 and, at the
Right.
time, Ahsoka, and all this other stuff at Celebration. I get they wanted to, make a bang with their movie announcements,
Right.
but even if they'd just waited for the next Celebration to announce it, even if it wasn't this
Mhm.
year and it was next, even then, why announce all 3 of them at once?
I'll say probably for a couple reasons, and then we'll let Jay have the last word.
Yeah,
One,
yeah.
because if Star Wars was singular in doing this, I might give a little bit more like credence to it. But all the other franchises are doing that. Like, Marvel announces their next several movies,
Mhm.
and that's what we have. Like, Warner Brothers with the DC universe. Like, James Gunn had his whole video at the DC panel, and he's like, it starts with this movie, and then we're going to this one and that one. And I think Star Wars wanted to also come on and be like, we're doing this one, and then we have
Right.
this right here, and then them getting ahead of the storm for once, instead of one of those like trade publications putting out there like, there's a Dawn of the Jedi movie with James Mangold, like, being the director. I think they were like wanting to get ahead of that and say, this is our plan, and make it seem, whether or not
Mhm.
they actually have their, everything. T's
Ducks in a
crossed and
row.
and all their ducks in a row. Like whether or not they do or not, it was their way of at least putting on like
that confident
unified
face.
face, like we have
Yeah.
this put together. So Jay, we'll give you the last word here before we go into our second resolution. Unless you say something like erase Qui-Gon from the prequel, then of course that's just gonna like open up the whole thing again, and we're gonna have to do another a 12th round knockout fight.
Oh, I hope it's nothing like that. No, I hear what you're saying, Tyler, and I think that you bring up some good points. I want to talk about though, like the idea of like getting ahead of the rumors and the leaks, because like of course that's a concern. That's especially a concern in today's day and age. But I think that if that was their main concern, I don't really see that as being as huge of an issue, because like I think that even though there have been a number of like leaks and announcements that have not gone the way that certain companies have wanted them to. Just look at Spider-Man home, like Spider-Man No Way Home, and the Mandalorian with the casting of Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka. Even though a lot of these leaks have happened before, they haven't actually deterred my enjoyments of these these franchises. And so like, to be honest, like it is a concern, but I really think that these franchises and these companies should focus on making sure that these announcements come at the right time, because again, like Brian said, and like I think like what's on our minds is, look, a lot can happen between now and the supposed release dates. So
all right, fair enough. I promised you the last word. I will withhold, and I will make sure that happens, and we'll move on to our second resolution. I have a feeling that we'll be talking movie news quite a bit over the next year, so a lot of good conversations to come. So second one right here. Big one right here. We've talked about this before. This is not something new. And this year, putting on my Lucasfilm, CEO hat right now, I am now Chief Creative Officer, actually. I am now Dave Filoni for a minute.
Must
This
be
is what I'm
nice.
telling everyone. This is what I'm telling everyone. We are going to learn in 2024 here at Lucasfilm and Star Wars how to market our shows. We're not going to release the first trailer 6 hours before the show starts. We are not going to release like any movie, like any posters for this, 2 weeks after the episode airs. We're not going to drop the first TV spots and commercials, 12 seconds before the first episode debuts. I'm being a little facetious, obviously, here, but we have all talked on here plenty of times about how Star Wars has done a terrible job a lot of times at their marketing, because we won't find out that the Skeleton Crew and Acolyte both come out this year. Like this year, there's no teaser outside of if you were on at Celebration. There's no teaser trailer. There are no TV spots. We have no release date. We have no idea when to expect any of those. Bad Batch as well. Like we have no trailers. We have no release dates, and all of those things build into the hype for the show. You have the Acolyte, which is completely removed from anything that any casual fan is familiar with to some degree, outside of the fact that it's going to be Jedi heavy. We have to get better at marketing our stuff. And this year in 2024, this is the year we're going to get better marketing. So, Brian, how are we going to make this happen? Not will we. We're not.
They're not gonna.
How? How are we? That's part two. How are we going to get better at this in 2024? How are we?
They're not.
That's not the question. It's not will.
Drop the trailer for Acolyte yesterday. That's how you get ahead. That's how you do it. They're not going to learn from it. If they were going to, they'd have done it by now.
That's not yet.
I know. I can't help it. No, they would have to put the Acolyte trailer out like now, assuming that Acolyte is the first show releasing for the year. Assuming that, then yeah, put the trailer out. Because I mean, people at Celebration, what all did they get? They got the Acolyte trailer. They got a Skeleton Crew trailer, didn't they?
Bad Batch, like they pretty much everything.
They got everything that we haven't even seen officially yet.
I like how you said
almost a
they got
year
everything.
ago.
It's like the Barbie trailer, you know.
God.
They're everything. We're all just kin over here that
Yeah.
didn't get to go
Yeah,
to
we're nothing.
Celebration.
We're nothing. Oh,
I've
you
seen
can't
the- I've
spend
seen the
$700
blurry-
to go to Celebration. That's fine.
I've
You
seen
don't
on
get
my
to see
phone.
shit
I've
for a
watched
year.
the blurry thing, you know,
Yeah,
on
same.
my phone.
I've got it.
That
Yeah,
someone
I
recorded.
saved it on my phone. I've got it. And it looks awesome. Don't get me wrong, but I want to see it. Like, I want to see the official thing, and hopefully it'd be a different trailer. As great as that one is,
You know,
hopefully
it's going to be the same,
and it's going to be the exact same one. That's exactly what it's going to be.
Yeah.
They
Like
should.
Matt- like
I don't
Matt
know why
said,
they
there's
didn't put it
no-
out 6 months ago.
And there's no celebration this year, so
Yeah,
it's
no,
not like
so
they're gonna drop them this year.
It's gonna drop randomly on like a Thursday morning, and
It's
like
gonna drop May
here's
4th.
what's gonna happen. Here's what's going. Ooh,
It's gonna be
hopefully
like
the show's out by
It's
then.
gonna be like May 4th. Guess what? In 3 weeks, the Acolyte and
it's
comes,
gonna
and
be the
everyone's gonna be
same.
like, "What's that?"
It's gonna happen the same way the title for The Last Jedi happened. Remember, they just dropped The Last Jedi trailer in some random tweet on like a Wednesday night. Remember that? And they're like, "Oh yeah, the title for Episode 8 is The Last Jedi. Here's the logo." Like out of nowhere, like somebody at Lucasfilm is gonna get ready to leak this thing, and Kathleen Kennedy is gonna get word of it, and she's gonna be like, "Release it, do it now." And you're like, "It's already uploaded to YouTube." I know it is. They're just waiting for the publish button to get hit. Just release the trailer. That would put a lot more faith in. That would have me putting a lot more faith in their marketing, is to release it right. And I'm not just saying that because I want the show. The trailer is 9 months ago. You showed it to people 9 months ago, and we haven't even seen like
locked
nothing.
in a vault.
Nothing, literally nothing. We haven't got an episode title list. We haven't gotten like directors for the episodes. Like nothing. It's just complete radio silence. Like.
Over the show, they probably should be doing their darndest to market. Like they should be working the hardest to get people interested in this one. Jay, what about you? What can we do here? You know, us, the brain trust here at Lucasfilm. What can we do here at Star Wars Newsnet, Lucasfilm headquarters to make sure?
I could put the trailer out right now if you guys want.
To make sure that we market our shows in 2024.
First off, I totally agree with Brian. They're not going to do it.
That's not the question.
I know.
We're
It's not the
not
question.
being
Hang on.
negative right now. We're saying how we can do this. You guys don't understand the rules of the game.
Okay, so you know who I think does a really great job at marketing their shows? HBO. HBO does absolutely like a fantastic job of marketing what they've got so far and what they're working on. I was just thinking, like, who does a great job at marketing their shows? HBO, because we've known about that Penguin TV show since forever, but I never get tired of what they of what they're showing off, and of like every single like little bit of clips, and for me,
the way they handled
like,
The Last of Us, like.
The Last of Us, that was fantastic too.
It was a great marketing
They dropped a full minute and a half like teaser trailer for House of the Dragon season 2 like weeks ago. Like it was like not a month ago, but it was weeks ago that they dropped that, and that comes out probably next August. So
right.
Mm-hmm.
So like it doesn't have to be like full trailers.
Yes,
I actually, like we would like full trailers, of course,
20 seconds.
20. I'm just like little sizzle reels, or like behind the scenes clips.
Oh yeah.
Because you could show so much. Yeah, you could show so much behind the scenes stuff of Star Wars and of these shows, and people would just get excited, because that stuff is really cool. I thought even like The Force Awakens had really good marketing leading up to the release of it, but I think they are so stingy with what they're showing, and I agree with you guys.
They're acting like it's 2014 again.
Yeah,
where everything revolves
dropped The
around
Force Awakens trailer 13 months early,
and everyone is gonna just hang on everything. Not even a trailer. If you dropped just some stills, just some images from the show of some of the new Jedi and stuff, maybe with their lightsabers ignited, or like an image of just kind of like a clash, something. It doesn't have to be from like footage that's actually used. It's just something that
Show
could
us,
make people go, "Oh, who are these people?" Like,
show us
because
concept art.
lightsabers,
Yeah.
Jedi, things like that. That is what will get people interested.
You know what would be cool is if they did like what Jay was talking about, like a behind the scenes thing, right? Like a sizzle reel. And you don't have to show footage of the Acolyte, but like you said earlier, Tyler, this is a show that it's a time period that the general audience isn't really familiar with. This is an entirely new thing. Like for us, this is the culmination of High Republic for us, right? We're like,
Right.
yeah, we're getting High Republic, but not
Still
a lot
like
of people know
150 years
yeah,
after
right.
everything we'll be reading too.
And why not, you know, they for the High Republic initiative, they did all this concept art and they got all the all the authors in the same room, and they hammered out the story out. Do interviews with the authors talking about the story so far, and show a bunch of the concept art from the High Republic to show people who haven't read the books or even know about it. Hey, this is a whole new time period. This is what it looks like. This is the aesthetic of it. This is where we're at in the story so far. This is what's happened. This is where this show picks up. This is where we're at.
And you can also get people to like pick up the books.
Yeah.
Start reading them now so that, you know, like by the time the Acolyte
people aren't going to do that. I'll tell you right now. They're not going to do They're not.
Okay, there's a lot there. Yeah.
There's going to be a few people that do it. But I mean, I think even just draw some interest into the books now,
into the time period,
so that people can actually get started. Because I think, like, for one thing, like to drop the High Republic, like I'm not like, of course we haven't seen the show or anything, right? But I'm still kind of iffy on like the Acolyte being people's introduction to the High Republic,
because it's so far, it's like at the end of it,
right?
basically.
Exactly. So I think if you like, that's one thing that we, you know, like I totally agree with you on, Brian. Just get like some people to even just sit in front of the camera and talk about what you're working on. I think that would make people even just happy, you know. And again,
get George Mann, Kevin Scott, Claudia Gray, like the big names from High Republic, to sit down and just,
and then like that, and then again, you know, that gets people to like pick up the books and start reading, so that by the time the Acolyte comes out, it's like, oh, I know this, I know who Vernestra Rowe is or something, you know.
Right. There is so much that they can do to market better. And the problem with them is they're so tight-lipped. They keep everything close to the vest. And I am worried, and I've said this for the show, I think the Acolyte is the thing that I think we're all three looking forward to maybe the most in 2024. But it's also maybe the thing that we're most nervous about, because it is it's something new. And they have not shown that they will just give people time to let word of mouth take over as well, and they're not going to market this thing the way they should. So I guess you've already told me your answer, but will we be sitting here December 31st shaking our heads already?
Dude, I'll be surprised if we have a trailer for the Acolyte by December 31st. They're not going to learn from this at all. There's no way.
The show has come out and there's actually no trailer.
Yeah, there's still no trailer. Yeah,
you mentioned
the
show
has been out for 8 months.
You remember you mentioned the sizzle reel, Jay, and do you remember, guys, when Kathleen Kennedy's big presentation, when they announced all this stuff, and, you know, mixed bag with what actually came to fruition from that. But do you remember they released that behind the scenes, like sizzle reel for Andor at that time? It was, and that was so good. And when she had mentioned Andor, and this was like a series that they were developing, I was kind of like, I don't really know why we need this. It didn't really appeal to me. And then I watched the little sizzle reel that they showed, and I'm like, okay, like there might be something here. And it was, you know, Endor was awesome. So if you could do that, like get just something, people are in there, and I'm sure they have just random stuff that they can throw in there. And I'm sure your showrunner Leslie Hyland would be more than willing to come in and do a little like 2-minute spiel over the High Republic, because we've gotten some images like there. We know there's a Wookiee Jedi in this. It's not Buryaga, but we know there's a Wookiee Jedi. I don't remember the name that they said for him, but we know there's a Wookiee Jedi based off of like this random image that we saw, and then a couple of things they said at Celebration. Like, why can't you just have something about a Wookiee Jedi real quick? That would very make people interested. So we're not doing this. And before, I got one more for us, and I think you're gonna like this one. This is good. I'm excited for this one. I don't think it's what you're going to be expecting. But before I jump into that, just real quick, please like and subscribe to the channel. Drop your Star Wars resolutions in the chat. I want to go over some of those after this third one, just to see what obviously Brian and Jay are going to come up with, but also what else out there you guys are interested in. But like and subscribe. We're here every Thursday. We're going to have a lot of new stuff coming out on YouTube this year for you. I'm working on an Elzar Man character shorts to put out hopefully like next week or something. But real quick, Manslayer's resolution for this Star Wars this year is a Lucasfilm disclosure, some involvement of Lucas in regard to the future. He spared a few minutes in recent documentaries. They're holding something back. Any thoughts on that, guys, before we move into our third resolution? Just real quick, because I do want to give us enough time to talk about this one. I think you guys will have some cool thoughts on this new. Jay, Brian?
As cool as that sounds, is get Lucas re-involved in it. That's something that I'll believe it when I see it. I've heard him in too many interviews talk about how the metaphor he uses is when you break up, you don't keep driving by the ex's house, you don't call, you don't see how they're doing and everything. And he's old enough now. I don't think he wants to go back to it. I don't think he even has especially with the way Disney has kind of handled it compared to what he wanted to do with it, and how much different it is, and how they just basically threw away his ideas. And I don't think he's ever going to come back to it. Don't get me wrong. If they announce tomorrow George Lucas is working on the next Star Wars movie, I'm bringing on, but I don't see it happening.
I can't see it happening either, outside of just maybe he comes in and he hangs out and he gives a few words of advice for a day, because he's old and he's just chilling.
That's why we have Dave Filoni now.
Actually, you know what, Brian, thank you for bringing up Dave Filoni, because I think that I think there is it's possible. I'm not saying that like Lucas, coming back, having some involvement isn't ever going to happen. I think in my head, like, it certainly is possible. I think the chances of it is a little bit slim. I don't think it's like a big chance, but I think if he does have involvement in it, it'll just be as purely like advisements, like just overseeing stuff,
like an episode of something random.
Right. And I think even like, I think when you have Dave Filoni now as chief creative officer, I'm sure him and Lucas probably do keep in contact, right?
They're texting all night.
Actually, now I think about it, there's probably like no way like that they're not keeping in contact and asking each other questions. After all, you see them in the documentary where, hey, Lucas is on set, someone's got to be like keeping him in the loop. So I think I think honestly, like, there's a chance, but I'm not gonna hold my
hold your breath on this one.
Hold my breath on something.
I saw something, and I have to say this is completely off topic. For whatever reason, I just thought of animation, and well, not for no reason. Our next question is about animation, but I saw this, what was a proposed like season 12 like Clone Wars arc that never happened, with Padme, and they were going back to like Mon Cala, and she was like more involved. It was like intersecting with Revenge of the Sith, and that would have been so cool. But the main reason I'm actually upset is because they were going to go hang out with my boy Lee Char, King Lee Char at this point, my favorite random Clone Wars character of all time. And the fact that I was denied my adopted son in another Clone Wars episode is criminal. And
he died horribly in the comics.
In Mando, I didn't know that. What? Is that canon?
Yeah.
He died horribly?
Yeah.
How? Tell me,
no, I ain't doing it. No.
What?
There's later on, in the comics, yeah.
So
was it the Star Wars? Is it the current Star Wars run, or was it? I think it's the current Star Wars run. No, maybe not. It's during that time period. It's during the classic trilogy.
Broke my heart, because I remember there was like, I think a Mando episode maybe.
I'm pretty sure he died.
There was the Mon Cala on there, and they said your dad is like royalty or something, and I'm like, are they talking about my boy? Apparently not, because he's dead. Now I'm so heartbroken. Okay, as I'm going to try to avoid tears as I bring up this next one. So we all know the Bad Batch is entering final season, third and final season. They've known it, I feel like, for a while that this was a 3-season run for the most part, and they know the story they want to tell. We always know Star Wars animation is cooking something awesome. So my question is, Manslayer, no more Leechar stuff right now. I cannot handle it as we're moving on to the new thing.
He died.
No.
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought he did.
Actually, Manslayer, if you know how he died in the comics, if you could just drop it in the comic, please, that would just be fantastic.
It was like he got caught in a crossfire or something, if I remember right. Like it was stupid.
It was
so stupid. And Leia was there, and it was like,
who wrote that? I need to know who wrote that comic. I'm writing a letter,
probably
strongly worded letter. But anyway, Brian, we got this. We got this. Moving on. Bad Batch is ending. Season 3 is over. Our resolution, our goal for this year is by the end of the year, we will know the next headlining animation series for
you
Star
think it'll be
Wars.
announced this year?
By the end of the year, we will at least know. In the future, we will know what it is. Not that we know all the details, but this is
but at least like a title or
or at least the era or the main thing. Will we know by the end of this year?
Yeah, and I'm willing to bet it's gonna. I'm not gonna say that, but yeah, no, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen this year.
Okay.
Yes.
Jay,
I didn't even
wait till 2025, like Japan.
I mean, no, I agree with Brian. I think it will happen this year. First off, but let me just say though, I didn't even think of another headline main
another main title
animation. I was thinking because we have Bad Batch, and I wasn't even really thinking about what's after the Bad Batch. But you're right. I mean, after the Bad Batch now though, there is what's going to be the big animation series. Well, we don't know. So I think I agree with you guys that we will find out. We'll probably find out a title and probably the era it's going to be in. That's about it.
It'd be late this year, though.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
They'll let Bad Batch finish and everything.
Yeah, and then by Celebration, a trailer.
So I have 4 potential options. I want you to tell me. Obviously, it could be something completely different, but I have 4 pitches for you right now. And in the chat, let me know which one that you like the best. He managed. Hold on, this is something we have to eat. This is more important. Leechar died during the Galactic Civil War. He managed to give a final speech before being killed by stormtroopers while he was on life support. So what you're telling me is my boy was a rebel hero that gave one final speech of glory and just probably was in charge. Honestly, his speech probably prompted Admiral Akbar to become the great rebel leader that he was. So basically, guys, we would have never gotten the rebellion without Leechar. That's what I took from this comic.
He died like a bitch. I'm just kidding. No, I'm kidding. He did go out pretty heroically. It was pretty cool.
So 4 animated series. Which one would you guys like the most? And or which one is the most likely to happen? Here we go. Number 1. Continuation from Solo, Crimson Dawn, Crime Syndicate animation with Maul and his time as the Syndicate leader post Clone Wars era, and Kira, her arc continuing to where she becomes in charge of Crimson Dawn, like we see later in the comics. So that's number 1. So that's Crimson Dawn Kira, number 1. Number 2, a High Republic animated series. Takes place in the High Republic. High Republic series. Don't know if they would do the same era that we've been in the books, or if they might do something closer to the time of the Acolyte. Whatever it is, just something High Republic, no strings attached there right now. Third one, Luke and Ben Solo, Luke's basically Jedi Academy with Ben Solo being his main apprentice, and we kind of get Luke setting the stages for that while also seeing him mentor Ben, and then ultimately that would lead into Ben leaving and everything that we know that takes place from Force Awakens on. That's number 3. Last one, I don't know if you guys have ever read the Jedi Apprentice or Master and Apprentice, or those books from before they're pre-canon. But what if we had, there's not a ton of content from like between like Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones? What if we had like a series that just followed like little adventures from Anakin and Obi-Wan as Master and Apprentice? So those are my 4 ideas that I'm just going to throw at you. Obviously, some of these have been discussed before, obviously, and these are not groundbreaking ideas. But those I feel like are 4 like things that could happen. Which one would you want to see? Which one is most likely going to happen? And then if you had to just, discard all of them and go with like what you think they're going to end up with, what will that be? I'll start with you, Jay. We have Crimson Dawn, High Republic, Luke and Ben, Anakin, Obi-Wan.
So what I'd like to see would be the Luke and Ben story play out in animation, because I think when you're talking about it and I was just thinking about it, I think that that'd be really like another the Clone Wars situation where, hey, here's a animated series that explores and mines the depth of a era that is still kind of, like there's still so much to uncover, and this could really change how people view the sequels. I think that'd be great. I'd really love to see that. However, I don't. I think that's a little bit too ambitious. What's funny about the Clone Wars and why I think the Ben and Luke story is a little bit too ambitious is because, well, Dave Filoni was the one who headed up the Clone Wars, and he was like the champion of that show, right? He was like the one who fought through all of like the negative reception, who really outlined that entire series, and he knew where where it was gonna go. I don't know who in the animation department is being set up for that position where they can take on like this huge ambitious project. I hope that someone in the animation department is there that can, take on hopefully the next Clone Wars. But I don't know if it's there yet.
Do you think there would be a heavy level of backlash? I feel like in today's day and age with Star Wars animation, I feel like they have such a good reputation right now with what they've done through the Bad Batch, the Clone Wars. I feel like right now Rebels is pretty popular and people are liking Rebels. I feel like they're in like the sweet spot, and everyone loved Tales of the Jedi, it seems. Visions has been extremely popular. Obviously, that wasn't like Lucasfilm, it was other contributors. But just animated Star Wars projects that we have seen that they've been willing to do. I feel like they have a lot of clout right now, and
they do.
I think that they could. I think that might be the story everyone wants to see the most. So they would be maybe more willing to. But then again, Star Wars fans being reasonable, like of course that would never happen.
I agree with you. I think that I think if they did this, they would get a lot of support, and I don't think that it would be the same backlash that the Clone Wars received, because, I think they've kind of learned a lesson from that time period. But again, I'm not too like we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but let's. My thing is, I'm not sure if they're ready yet. I would love to give them a shot, and I think that there's definitely Dave Filoni. He talks all the time about like, hey, I'm bringing up people in animation who can lead this side of the department, and I think that it's definitely that the next Dave Filoni is probably going to be coming soon. But we don't know who it is. The one I think that they're probably going to do, it's the second one. It's the High Republic. It's because it's because I think that Lucasfilm is they're going pretty hard in on the High Republic contents, and they want this stuff to make money, and like they want to expand upon this and make it a thing. We already have Young Jedi Adventures, and I think that's a perfect. Awesome. I think it's a lower risk. It's a lower risk than having the Luke and Ben story, which is why I think this is actually going to be
I don't know. I might disagree with that, because I feel like with the Luke and Ben story, there might be more risk in terms of like people having strong opinions. But what we know about people with Luke and Ben though is they would watch, like they 100% would watch. Like everyone's gonna watch that. And I feel like with the High Republic, it might be are people gonna tune in for that? like they would. And
Yeah,
maybe
no,
Star
I
Wars
agree.
animation junkies are just so into Star Wars that they're gonna watch anything that gets put out. But that we should have that conversation at some point, just about what a look like, what is the risk reward in terms of a Luke Ben series there. But Brian, what about you? Which one would you like to see happen the most from those four? Personally.
I'm all for Master and Apprentice stories. I'm all for that.
Mhm.
I mean, I loved Claudia Gray's Master and Apprentice with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. You know, there talk a while back, several years ago, about an animated show that might have been in the works about Luke's, you know, school and everything like that. I thought there were some
I
rumors
do not
about
know.
that way back in the day. Not that I think anything, you know, that they were substantiated by anything, but I mean, there were rumors, you know, 5-6 years ago about that. Um, that's something I wouldn't mind seeing, is, you know, the animated show with Luke and Ben. I'm all for that relationship, because I think, because that big catalyst that happened between them happened off screen. I know it was a flashback, but we saw 3 different versions of it. So, like, you know, because that happened off screen, and we still don't have like the entire, I mean, we have, you know, the Rise of Kylo Ren
Mhm.
comic that kind of covered a little bit, but we don't have like the full story of like how Ben met Snoke, and, you know, and everything like that. I think that would be really fun to explore.
Mhm.
And I think Dave Filoni is really good, or not just Dave Filoni, but Star Wars animation in general, like Clone Wars. It's really good at supplementing the time period that it's in and making it better, making the films better than what they were, by filling in these gaps. You know, with the prequels, with Clone Wars, you always heard Obi-Wan talking about how Anakin was the best star pilot in the galaxy and a good friend. You see hints of it in the movies, but when you watch Clone Wars, you really see it a lot. And I think if they had done something like that with Ben and Luke, and really built that relationship up and made it really, really tragic when Luke makes that mistake,
Okay.
I think that would be a really great, great show. Um, the one that's most likely to happen, though, is going to be the High Republic. I agree with Jay. I still stand by.
Mhm.
I think that's the future of where they're going with it. The only thing that gives me pause about that, though, about really building stuff around High Republic, is what we know of the High Republic right now from the novels. It's going to be really hard to build a live action or even an animated series or even movies around that time period based off of novels, because Star Wars has always been movies first. And we complain about things happening off screen. Why do we have to read a book to find out what happened?
Right.
I think that's a fine line you got to walk with High Republic. You got to tell stories in the High Republic era with some of these characters we know from the novels, but not necessarily those stories. You know, you don't want
And
adaptations of the
well,
same
it's
stories.
easy to do that. I mean, you take the end of Phase 2
Mm-hmm.
with Ziri and Vantu. They,
Yes.
are falling in love. There's like the whole romance there, bringing their planets together. You have Axel and Jella's relationship, that clearly they're going to be a part of each other's lives. She's going out to be a way seeker. And it's 150 years prior to everything that happens in the first era of the High Republic that we see in the book. So there's plenty of
Mm-hmm.
stories you can do with pre-established characters, and they don't even need to be necessarily prerequisites to have seen and read the books, because you can easily explain some of these relationships and
Mm-hmm.
dynamics in a show. And just like if they were to announce this series, this would all take place after Phase 3 of the High Republic is completed. And so
Mm-hmm.
Phase 3 of the High Republic is done. Then you launch in with a High Republic show that takes place at the end of Phase 3 that pushes
Mm-hmm.
those characters forward. Like, and you could easily just have some sort of new setup. Or
Right.
the Acolyte takes place, you have characters from the Acolyte, something along those lines there.
Or
It's really easy.
or even give us a show with the history of like Avar Chris and Elzar Mann, and because there's a huge history with those three, like,
Right.
you know, and with Stellan Geos, there's a huge history there, and
Mhm.
explore that. That sounds like it'd be a blast. I mean, they were hinting at a lot of personal stories and stuff, you know, in Phase 1 about things that had happened between them, and, you know, in this whole triangle of the three of them. So I think that would be a lot of fun too.
Absolutely. Well, we're about at the hour mark. I know Jay has to get going here.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any final resolutions you'd like to see for Star Wars this year? Anything at all? Yes,
I'm
Jay.
in for the ride.
My one resolution is for Star Wars Outlaws to have good performance when it comes out on release. We can't have
So excited
another
for that game.
I am too. I'm really excited for that one. I think it's gonna be great. I think Massive Entertainment, who did the new Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora, I think they're a really great developer. But I just the performance for Star Wars Jedi Survivor was like the one thing that like everyone will say like, oh, like please fix that. So I think they've learned a lesson. Hopefully they've learned a lesson.
On
And
polishing.
yeah, and hopefully like
Yeah.
Star Wars Outlaws would just come out free of just polished and free of bugs and glitches. Man.
We'll see. I'm not like a huge video game person, so I leave that to you guys
Oh,
in the
I'm so
video
ready
game
for GTA
department.
and Star Wars.
I'm
Bring it on.
I'm sure that the open worlds, I'll probably play it like at some point, but it'll be probably 2 years after it comes out, and I'll probably jump in and be talking about it, and everyone's gonna look at me like that was so 2024, Tyler. What are you talking about right now? I will have to say this should be a really fun year in Star Wars just because there's so much new stuff. We have
Yes.
the
Yep.
Acolyte, brand new skeleton crew, brand new characters, new Tales of the Jedi. We're finishing Bad Batch season 3, but just the amount of brand new stuff, Living Force, all the
Oh, I'm
novels
so
that are
excited
coming
for Living
out.
Force.
It's going to be so good. So, Brian, as always, for Light and Life, please take us out of here. To actually scratch that, please, Brian, plug your podcast real quick.
Hey, you guys can find me on the Star Wars Canon podcast. Took a little bit of a step back for just a little bit, just to kind of reset things and to get things going. We're getting ready to slingshot into the new year and try to cover everything from a very subjective point of view. Here at, like when we do the the weekly roundup, I have to be very objective about things that have happened. I really can't put my opinion in there. It's it's like these are the facts. This is what happened. And then places like here in my show, I get to really like tear into some stuff once in a while.
Like, remember what I said on Sunday in that video? Disregard. This is where it actually takes place, right? Like, disregard that.
We're getting ready to slingshot into this year, and I have actually been talking with an author who I've actually been talking to for several years. I've had him on the show already once, and this author may or may not have a novel coming out this year. So I'm might be getting him on the show and talking about the novel when we get closer to it. So
that's awesome.
Go find the Star Wars Canon podcast.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian. And Jay, real quick, where can we find you?
Well, you can find me here at Star Wars Newsnet. I have a new editorial coming out pretty soon. I actually had a few on Tales of the Jedi and on the Acolyte. I have one coming up on Skeleton Crew that I'm happy to get published out pretty soon. You can also find me writing for utini.com. I also contribute to that website as well. And you can also check back again pretty soon because I have a new YouTube channel focused on video games that I am working on currently, and I hope to present that to all of you pretty soon as well. So yeah, thanks guys for watching. Shout out to everyone in the chat as well, to Manslayer and to all of you guys who have been listening and watching while we've been chatting. So
please like and subscribe. Star Wars Newsnet, all your Star Wars news, etc. We cover everything, books, comments, all the good stuff. I will probably be doing this series called like Who Is in Star Wars. They're going to be like little 2 to 3 minute shorts. I'm working on some drafts for like 4 or 5. We're just going to record them all at once and then pump them out different times. Just kind of just some High Republic stuff, just because there could be references in the Acolyte or different characters that get mentioned or could pop in that some people might not be familiar with. So I think that's important for people, something brand new, get involved in the High Republic. First one's going to be Elzar Mann, just because that's my guy. So until next time, for Light and Life, Brian, take us out of here.
Till next week, guys, may the Force be with you.